welcome to Liberty Starship, where we go beyond the typical terrestrial talk. I am Eric Alexander, along with Peter Maines. Together we are your crew and invite you to join us on the journey to discuss politics and current events. Well, the first thing I've got to do is talk about a little house business. Unfortunately, Pete is not joining me today on the show. I'm sad to report he's not feeling well. But he assures me it's nothing serious, but it is affecting his ability to speak because he's coughing and that kind of thing. So I'm sorry to say that he's not feeling well, but it sounds like it's not serious. So that's, good news, bad news kind of situation. So this will probably be a short, more of a mini-sode kind of format. I do have a couple different articles that I want to talk about, different issues that I have listed in the description. We're going to be talking about the Democratic Convention a little bit. Also going to be talking about the opening of EoS Fitness in Arizona, and also talking about the potential of the Snowden pardon and the fact that that seems to be gaining a little bit of traction and is a sort of old issue that's kind of coming back again. But before I say that, I thought I would just mention I've been watching a lot of this video footage from this man that was beaten in downtown Portland. And it really, on a personal level, really gets to me because I actually lived in Portland for a time. I attended the University of Portland for a semester. And it's just so sad to see what's going on there right now and to see the lawlessness that's going on in Portland right now. Those videos are really hard to watch. And then, of course, they're very chaotic. So, you might see one video and you don't really know what's going on. And then you have to watch another video, in order to kind of see, to really determine what happened, what led up to the situation. It takes quite a while. And after a while, you get a headache watching all that stuff because it's so depressing and it's so sad and it's so disgusting. It makes you both angry and sad at the same time. Again, because, for me, I lived in Portland. I used to go to downtown Portland all the time by myself as a college student. And I never felt unsafe. It was an active downtown, but it was quiet in the sense that I never really felt that I was in any kind of danger walking around by myself in downtown Portland as a 19-year-old. And now it's like I feel I'm in my 40s, and now I feel like I need to make sure that if I go there, I'm carrying, that I have to be very careful. I mean, I wouldn't go anywhere near downtown Portland right now or downtown Seattle. Quite frankly, I don't even like going to downtown Phoenix right now. And Phoenix is much better off than both of those communities. We've taken a much harder line towards violent protesters here in Arizona than they have in Oregon and Washington. It's just sad. It's sad. It makes me angry. Supreme Heretic, thank you for checking me out. I really appreciate that. This format's a little bit different because I normally have a co-host. So I just want to mention that to you if you're kind of wondering if I seem to be floundering a little bit. Normally, I have a co-host, Peter Maines. He's not feeling well today. So the format's a little different. Probably only going to go about half an hour. Normally, we go for an hour or more. Actually, last time, I think we went for like an hour and a half. Because Pete was really going on the topic. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the topics I have for today. And after, just putting out that personal thing about the beating in Portland, which again is it's despicable. It's terrible. I don't know what else to say about it, except it's just incredibly frustrating to watch. So I'm going to start out talking about the Democratic National Convention. So I have an article here from CNN. For folks that aren't aware, it's going to be different this year, and it starts tonight. This is from CNN Politics, as what to watch on the first night of the Democratic Convention. And we've got a picture here. And so our picture here shows Michelle Obama, former Governor Kasich, and Senator Bernie Sanders. And they are going to be taking the virtual stage tonight. It's kind of an interesting format. That would be cool, actually, Supreme Heretic. Yeah, I would actually like to send you a link. It'll take me a second to figure out how to do that. Give me one sec, and I'd be more than happy to have you come on the show. That would actually be kind of fun. I've never really, I've actually been on we were on Orville Nation one time together discussing pop culture, but I've never actually really discussed any kind of politics with you directly, other than seeing some of your posts. Let me see if I can figure out how to do that. Let's see here, because I haven't. Let me go ahead, and I will go ahead and invite you on. Let's see here. I apologize if anybody else is watching or listening, but hey, this could be fun. So I'm going to go ahead and just do it. So let me get the. I'm going to send you the. Actually, you just followed the Liberty Starship account, didn't you? So I can just DM you right there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and send you the link. This will be interesting. So I went ahead and sent Supreme Heretic the link. So if he wants to come on, he can go ahead and join the discussion. So yes, I already sent you the link, Supreme Heretic. I sent it to you. It just was taking me a second to figure it out because I didn't realize you'd followed the Liberty Starship account. Supreme Heretic follows my pop culture account, which is for the Retro Rogue Space God 14, which I try to keep that separate. I try to keep the pop culture separate from the politics because I just don't like to have that cross pollination as much, because I get sick of it sometimes, especially with entertainment. A lot of people, when they cover entertainment news, they get very political, and I personally get sick of it because my entertainment is to get away from a lot of this. And so I don't want to discuss it. I kind of like to compartmentalize my life, if you will. So this CNN Politics article, it talks about the new format of the Democratic Convention, because it is considered a virtual convention this year. Although it's not exactly, I guess, virtual. I guess we'll have to see. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not sure if I plan on watching it. I actually do have some things to do. It's not just a matter of. It's not just a matter of I don't have any interest in what they're saying. I'm very upfront on this show. You can see the picture of me with Ron Paul, with Dr. Ron Paul, former congressman. I am a Republican. I lean libertarian, but that doesn't mean that I don't care about what the Democrats are saying. In fact, actually, I care quite a bit about what they're saying. And of course, in this circumstance, as we can see in this picture tonight, Kasich is supposed to talk, which I'll be honest with you, I've never been a fan of him. I do think he's squarely in that sort of never Trumper category. And that doesn't really help him, I think, that much with people that are on the fence. Because I think a lot of folks, they realize that he kind of loses some credibility among people, Republicans that are on the fence, I think, because we know that he's a never Trumper. We know that he never was going to support President Trump, ever, never did, and was very much against him from the start. So I'm not sure if this is the best move for the Democratic National Convention, having him on there. Michelle Obama is kind of a Democratic superstar, so she's kind of a no-brainer, I think. I think as far as the base is concerned, she has huge appeal to the base. And then, of course, Bernie Sanders represents a different part of the party, which is becoming more and more mainstream every day. In fact, I think a lot of folks would argue that Bernie Sanders is the true mainstream of the Democratic Party, even though he lost to Biden. And he lost quite soundly to Biden in the primaries. Biden overtook him, I believe, before Hillary was able to overtake him in the last election. Don't quote me on that, but from my perception, it seemed like so many different Democratic candidates. So the interesting thing about this format, as they talk about, is that these speakers will be talking from different places in the country. And it does sound like they will be talking from stages. It's just going to be like small stages. So rather than having, the traditional kind of convention where everybody is in the same place, everybody's in the big stadium, you're going to have these speakers talking from all over the country, and probably have small audiences, it looks like. It says the convention's main hubs will be stages. So it says it will be stages in New York, Los Angeles, Milwaukee, and in Biden's hometown of Wilmington, Delaware, where he and his running mate, California Senator Camille Harris, will deliver their speeches later in the week. So it's going to be a kind of interesting format. What I'm picturing in my head is that you're going to have these sort of small stages, very limited crowds, or even maybe no crowds, and they'll be talking, and then it'll switch. And what's interesting is they're talking about if this format seems to work, they might keep it. And we might see the possibility of the traditional conventions going away. This article actually kind of touches on that. So this should be an interesting opening night. I see Supreme Heretic is on. Let me get him actually on the air. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's going on there, brother?
It's been a long time, as I mentioned, since we actually talked, which was on PJ show for Orville Nation.
Yeah, well,
we actually talked.
Finally, I meet up with my Battlestar soul brother.
That's right. That's right.
So there we go. So yeah, whoever watches this back on the playbacks, because not sure how many viewers we got right now. Eric's got a great Battlestar show. I have a good Battlestar show. So if you are involved in the Battlestar fandom, make sure that you catch it and get a good double dose of Galactica, because, as far as I know, Eric and I are the ones keeping the Battlestar fandom alive on YouTube. So make sure you check us both out for your Battlestar fix. And, we'll always bring you the details. He does a great job with his stuff, and I try to bring you guys news and reviews. And we are currently, I believe, in season 2, episode 17. We're doing a live review on Pegasus Actual Thursday of The Captain's Hand, which is one of my favorite episodes. So yeah, that's going to be fun. So all you BSG fans are going to have a good time with us. But we are here to discuss politics. And yes, even though on Bounding Into Comics, we report on pop culture and we report on things like that. But, I follow what's going on in the world. And, I was listening to what you were saying, Eric. I kind of lean, I'm more of a center right person myself, but I'm a big picture free thinker type of person. And, just what you're talking about here. Now, I mean, we can just break down the picture. We don't even need to see the article here. It's funny how CNN, if you pay attention to the psychological breakdown of this picture, they have Kasich in the center, right? And
right.
It's hilarious because Kasich is only there for them to try to appeal to the center, which, by the way, if anybody's keeping score, Democrats are hemorrhaging center thinking voters left and right. They're pitting their hopes on Kasich to be the guy to try to appeal to that, and he's going to fall flat because the guy. Listen, I've lived in Ohio all my life. I know from being here, from seeing him speak countless times, the guy is, he talks a lot, but he talks in circles. He's a bit of a one of those circle talkers. He comes across as eloquent, but when you peel away the layers, he really doesn't get too deep into anything. And so, his policies weren't terrible, but there wasn't anything that really kind of set the state, in any great shape or form, other than the fact that, to his credit, he didn't touch any of the money in the rainy day fund. That's about it. I mean, I didn't see too much progress under Kasich. It was just kind of status quo, and that's how he is. He's just a vanilla guy, and he's not going to appeal to the center right now, and he's certainly not going to appeal to any Republicans on the fence, because there are a ton of independent journalists out there that are covering what's going on increasingly in these blue run cities. And you're seeing more and more violence. You're seeing people and residents attacked en masse for doing nothing but walking down a public street. Their only crime is they're existing, but they're attacked by these violent mobs under the guise of being protesters, and that's not what they are at all. Oh man, I am so trying, Eric, to say, like, on hard politics and not get into the outer fringes. But man, buddy, I'll tell you what. If you don't know what happened to Millie Weaver after I watched that Shadowgate documentary, oh boy, I certainly am a believer. Not that I wasn't before, but I am definitely a believer in the deep state.
Well, I think, actually, it's funny. My regular co-host Pete, it's very much opposite of that, and very much against conspiracy theories and things like that. And we've even talked about doing a special show just where we talk about conspiracy theories. He can give his viewpoint, I can give mine, and we just go back and forth. But when it comes to the term the deep state, I think it means different things to different people, and it exists at some level, whether people want to acknowledge that or not. And it exists in different forms. Because we can talk about things like bureaucracy. I mean, we can talk about things like bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is part of the deep state, because bureaucrats, they will be in power. They will be involved with governments for, decades, throughout their career. Whereas many of these politicians come and go during an election cycle. So just that, you can talk about the deep state and how it operates, because those folks are always there. They don't change that much. They change at the top. But when you talk about sort of like the undersecretaries, you talk about supervisors, you talk about people that are sort of mid-level managers and things like that. They don't change.
No, they don't.
They're always there, no matter who is quote unquote in charge. And so I actually believe I believe that's absolutely 100% true.
Well, and that's a big problem, Eric. That's why you see the cities basically decaying around us, because of the fact that these people that are hard left extremists. You're getting hard left extremist politicians, mayors, governors, people like that, and they're around for a while, because it also filters down. The city councils get that way. The state assemblies get that way, and this is a very specific reason. They're there to deconstruct the infrastructure that's there. And so you want to talk about the defunding of the police movement and things like that. Well, this movement is advanced because you've got these people installed there that follow this ideology. So they are already, even the AGs in a lot of these cities and states are on board with that particular platform. So that's why any action that law enforcement takes, well, 24 hours later, violent protesters are back on the streets. And it's funny that happens, because, normally they would be detained and held for a while for destruction of property, for assault, or things of that nature. But they're being turned right out because these, attorney generals and prosecutors are on board with this platform. And it's going to be a matter of time, but I do think eventually this whole house of cards is going to fall in on itself, and all of this stuff will be outed. There's a lot of people waking up.
Yeah, I hope so. I definitely hope people are starting to wake up. because the current reality is not one that I want to continue living in. It's
Oh,
pretty sad, and it's pretty upsetting.
absolutely. I mean, I feel bad for people out there that have young children and have to raise children in the midst of all this, because I mean, how do you tell them that they can't trust everything they hear? Yeah, that's a hard conversation to tell them that basically what's being portrayed around you as reality really isn't. It's propaganda. It's hard to explain that concept to young people, but it's sad, but it's true. That's where we're at right now. You can't trust the mainstream media, obviously, because again, you want to talk about a corrupt system scattered throughout mainstream media. You've got people that are direct, political operatives. It's really, really scary stuff right now, and I feel bad, like I said, for those people that are young parents with young children.
Yeah, I do as well. So I do think it'll be interesting. I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if I'm even going to be able to watch the Democratic National Convention for the first night. I am kind of interested to see what they actually say, what Michelle Obama, Kasich, and Senator Sanders say. I'm sure it's not going to be anything I haven't necessarily heard before, but I'm also a little bit curious about how this format is going to work, and if it's going to come across as as something something that looks good, or if it's going to be kind of cheesy. I'm kind of curious about that as well.
Well, it's funny because it's convenient how it benefits them, right? Because they're of course they're going to brand it because they're being so safe and so responsible because of COVID. But it's funny because a live audience, there's pressure when you have a live audience. You better make sure you say the right things to that base, or people will heckle, people will raise questions, and you don't have that layer of accountability there. So they can double down on their talking points, say what they want, and it's one of those things that it's very convenient when you look at it. But the thing is this really and truly is just an appeal to try and keep from hemorrhaging the supporters that they've already hemorrhaged out. There's so many people that have gone, with the hashtag walk away and moved over to supporting the other side, or just, out of wanting to preserve the country, gone over to the other side. And yeah, I can already tell you what they're going to say tonight. They're going to double down on all the talking points. They're going to support hashtag BLM and talk about the fight against systemic racism, which when you break it down is an absolute bunch of bunk. I mean, you have things out there like the 1619 Project, which the New York Times came up with, that's being taught in schools as history, but newsflash, it's actually alternate history because nothing happened that way. It's a history painted with facts to try and indoctrinate people into the thinking that America was founded under the absolute horrible systemic racism. And no, it wasn't. Founding fathers, that's so far from the truth. It's not even funny. If anything, the founding fathers founded our country on the basis of equality, and they don't want people to follow down that line of thinking, because this is engineered. It's engineered division on purpose. And of course, they're going to come out with their typical platform tonight and try to defend all of this and get behind it rah, and a lot of people know that they're shilling for it. It's not.
Yeah, no, I get exactly where you're coming from. I get exactly where you're coming from. So in a sense, I probably won't be missing much, not being able to watch it tonight. But
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
do have a more positive story. Yeah, I live out in Arizona,
Okay.
and Arizona has been kind of a little bit different in terms of the way that we've handled the shutdowns and a lot of the other issues that are going on. For instance, in Arizona, we don't have a statewide mask law, but communities like counties and cities are allowed to enact those ordinances if they wish. But
Mhm.
there is not a statewide mandate for it. But what we do have right now is basically most of your bars, theaters, water parks, and fitness centers are closed. But there was a little victory recently with EoS Fitness. So
Mhm.
apparently there is a caveat with Governor Ducey's order. Our governor is Governor Ducey in Arizona.
Mhm.
That basically allows businesses that are closed to apply to reopen. And this is one of the first businesses that has done that. And so EoS Fitness in Arizona, they actually did apply to reopen. And as of today, well, as of actually this weekend, I believe they opened on Saturday, they're open. And they have multiple locations throughout Arizona. And basically, the way it works is you have to do a reservation. It's a reservation system. So you make an appointment to go to the gym,
Mhm.
and you basically you have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
Uh, but they are open, which is kind of nice. We actually had a big controversy here with Mountainside Fitness, where they were doing several lawsuits to stay open. They actually defied the governor's order and were staying open in defiance of the order. And eventually, they went through they basically were just their case was dismissed. They sued the governor, and their case was dismissed. So they're still going through the process, and I can't help but wonder if Mountainside is going to be punished for having done that, for actually having sued the governor. But EOS Fitness is open, which is kind of a nice thing to report out here, that we do have a fitness a pretty large fitness chain that is actually now open in Arizona again.
Yeah. It's funny. Like here, our governor has been like really really weird about it, and it's our governor's Mike DeWine. We call him Mike DeRhino because he pretty much is a Republican in name only. I mean, you take away the R next to his name, he's basically a Democrat in disguise. He's gone, and like recently, for example, he let the bars reopen, but they put out this ridiculous thing where, and it's like prohibition all over again. The bars have to call last call at 10 p.m. And mind you, they can stay open longer. They can stay open till 2:30. But the thing is, yeah, they're going to be serving food and cokes. I mean, what
Oh,
the hell? What the hell? How does anybody make any money? A bar doesn't, and you know this, I'm sure, from experience. Anytime you've gone to a place that has a bar, go to the pool hall, something like that, they have, if they have a bar, the place doesn't start to get bustling until after 10 p.m.
right. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
just natural traffic. That's when your most traffic is going to be between 10 and 1 if you're a bar owner. And it's just it's sad because a lot of people sued the state government already for the closures, and things that were done previously, as far as just the hurried way that he had people close businesses and things of that nature. And there's a lot of mom and pops already that went out of business,
Right.
and it sucks. So I'm hoping that what things like this, like what you're showing here, I'm hoping that there starts to be a return to normalcy. But a lot of these governors are standing in the way, and I'll be real. Part of it is a lot of them are operating under TDS because Orange Man bad. The worse that they can make the president look, the better it is, and they think somehow that that's going to help. But it's all it is harming the residents of your state. And then those guys in New Jersey that keep opening their gym despite their governor being all draconian and continuing to close them down, those guys are folk heroes, man. The guys that are standing up to the order of closure every time they reopen their business. If I feel like if a business is willing to up its cleaning standards and employ the social distancing, that's fine. You should be allowed to be open. If you have sanitization stations, you should be allowed to be open. If you have like the precautionary measures in place, there's no reason that your business doesn't deserve to be serving the public. I mean, a lot of these orders were nonsense. And I think in the bigger picture, it's a control mechanism. It absolutely is. This is a control experiment from the word go. And I'm not one of those people that goes out there and says, "Oh, COVID's a hoax," because it's not.
Right.
I mean, we know that it's real. Are the numbers overblown? Yes. There. If you try to do research, if you try to independently find statistics on your own, it's funny because more statistics are disappearing every day. You go try to find sources for, let's say, hospitalizations and deaths and things like that. Very hard to find because statistics are getting scrubbed all the time. And it's funny. What are they trying to hide? Well, I'll tell you what they're trying to hide. They're trying to hide the fact that the numbers are overblown. There's a lot of places, and I'm sure that you've seen the stories that have reported COVID deaths that aren't related to COVID, or post-mortem, they find out the person had COVID, so they write it down as a COVID death. And it's a money game. Part of it is a big money game because a lot of the medical facilities and things like that dedicated to COVID receive kickbacks when there's a COVID treatment and COVID deaths. They get money for that. And, part of it is a money thing. And the other thing is, they don't want that information getting out there because, again, a lot of this is a control mechanism to get people used to a more, they want you to accept this as a normal, the new normal. And
I hate
far
that term.
from normal.
That's a trigger term for me.
It is.
I instantly get triggered with that because I think it's such a misleading term. Because it really kind of makes you almost go schizophrenic because on the one hand, they're saying this is a crisis. Mm-hmm. These are emergency orders. These are emergency declarations. But then they're trying to tell us this is the new normal. Well, if this is the new normal, then we shouldn't be under emergency declarations. We have a legislature. Mm-hmm. So if we are going to declare, quote unquote, the new normal, why aren't our legislatures passing laws? Why are we still dealing with all these executive orders? That's one of my biggest problems with what's going on. And I think it's very obvious, like you said, it's because they're trying to control us. In a lot of ways, it feels like they're trying to see how much we're willing to take and how much we're willing to lay down and allow executives, meaning governors, completely take over the mechanisms of power within every state and cast the legislature aside. And it's very thing. It's a crazy thing that people allow this on both sides. I don't understand either side of the aisle allowing this and saying, why isn't the legislature involved in this process?
Well, okay, if oh, geez, we don't want to get into the realm of conspiracies, but we're going to go there a little bit. But if you go back and think about the composition of the deep state, it goes on both sides. And that's the thing. Everybody that's so quick, it's I know a few people that are QAnon people, and I'm not full on board with the QAnon thing. I just always like to think from a place of common sense. I don't try to tie it to cryptic posts or anything else. I just pay attention and put two and two together. Okay, you can tell that the composition of the deep state, it's on both sides. So, you've got a lot of righteous people on the right that say, "Oh, the right is on the right side of history, or the left is on the right side of history." No. Listen, you've got people that are corrupt on both sides, and you have that all throughout the states. Doesn't matter the letter next to their name. They're corrupt and they're searching for power. Because if you break down a lot of these emergency orders and mask mandates and things of that nature, well, guess what? They're in many ways they run counter to the Constitution. All you have to do is pay attention to the Constitution of the United States, and that'll tell you right there that a lot of this stuff is malarkey. It's unlawful. But nobody does anything about it.
No, you're right. Nobody is doing anything about it right now, and that's one of the things that's so frustrating. And we've also seen there have been a few victories here and there, but by and large, we've also seen when the judiciary branch gets involved, a lot of times they're just punting and they're just saying, we're not even gonna deal with this. There have been some examples where that's not true. For instance, there have been some good rulings here and there when someone brings a lawsuit, but in large part, you see the judges punting as well, and so it becomes this really crazy situation that, to me, should be bipartisan outrage. That why are we allowing our governors to make all these calls without any public input, without the way that we pass laws regularly with public input, with the legislature meeting, with debate? It's amazing to me. It's crazy to me. And by the way, that gets into the whole bureaucrat thing as well, because when the executive is in charge, really who's in charge are the bureaucrats. It's really the heads of these organizations, like the heads of your local health board, your county health board, your state health board. Those people are really the ones calling the shots, because that's the person that the governor's listening to when they decide to make their decision. So it's bureaucrats, ultimately unelected bureaucrats, that are making the calls, because that's what happens when you have all the power concentrated in the executive. It's not about public input. It's not about what you think. It's not about what I think. It's not about what the general public thinks. It's what a small group of people think, and then they implement the policy. And another part of that, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term technocracy. Are you familiar with that term?
Mm-hmm.
Technocracy. I see a lot of technocracy right now. Technocracy is really on the rise, especially when you talk about how the media almost treats these quote unquote medical experts like they're God, like anything that they say is gospel, that they are the high priestess of the temple, and whatever they say is.
Look at the power they gave Fauci. Fauci's a bureaucrat. The guy
exactly. Yes, exactly.
The guy hasn't worked with patients in I don't know how many years. Been around 45 years. What, he worked with patients for maybe 10 or 15. The guy's been a government fossil. He sat in there countless administrations, and he's part of the smog. That's the problem with Fauci. That's why you see, like, a lot of these doctors that come out and they try to explain that masks aren't effective, or that hydroxychloroquine is effective. things like that, they're suppressed or the videos are taken down off of Facebook, off of Twitter, so on and so forth. But it's funny because these are people that are every day considered on the front lines, but they're discredited because why? Because they are presenting an alternate point of view. It's like it's scary because it goes back to the larger picture. Anything that runs counter to the narrative is going to be suppressed. And that's why I feel that 1A and 2A are under attack more than ever.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And what irritates the heck out of me is, the First Amendment covers a lot of different things. It covers, obviously, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom to protest, and freedom of the press. Mm-hmm. We've got 5 major issues in one amendment. And I think it's just so hypocritical how you'll have the press defend themselves and say, hey, we have a right to do whatever we want, First Amendment. And out of the same breath, but the churches should be closed. Churches shouldn't be open. And I'm like, you guys are defended under the exact same amendment. It's the same amendment that you guys are defended by. So guess what? It can't be one without the other. If you guys are allowed to do your thing, then that means churches are allowed to do their thing as well. It's so hypocritical. And then you talk about things like, protest. And then, you'll have the thing where a mass protest is bad, but a BLM protest is okay. That's science? That's science? Does that make any sense at all?
No, it doesn't. It's cherry picking is what it is.
It's politicizing. It's politicizing healthcare. It's politicizing science. It's making these things political that should not be political.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And you've got the craziness that is trying to take hold of. I'm sure that you pay attention to Twitter. You've seen the stupid posts like where they said somehow they equated that mathematics is racist. I mean, come on, it's a shit like that.
That's just them throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what's going to stick. I mean, that's what you're coming to right now. It's that's how ridiculous it gets. Right. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But like I said, it's what we've been seeing for a long time, I think, is a politicalization of science. People try to invoke science, except when the science doesn't support them, then all of a sudden science isn't good anymore. And we're seeing that now with medicine, which is really, really bad. We're seeing this politicalization of medicine. I saw a thing where there was some medical association that was actually trying to declare racism as a public health concern. It's like, that is not a public health concern. Okay. You need to stay in your lane because that is not your lane. You know what I mean? To talk
about. Dude, they did that here. Oh God, they did that because I live in between. I've got to 30 minutes to the west of me is Cedar Point. 30 minutes to the east of me is downtown Cleveland, and it's funny, dude, because in Cleveland, major U.S. city, they go and the city council passed a standing ordinance that racism is a health crisis, a public health crisis, and I was just laughing over that. The 6:00 local news, when they said that, I was laughing my ass off. Because are you serious right now? How in the world? I don't see people like all of a sudden like keeling over and getting carted to the hospital because someone oppressed them.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, oh God, people have lost their minds, dude. But
but part of that narrative, though, is so that you can say mass protests bad, BLM protests okay. That's what that is. That's
yeah, absolutely.
that's what they're trying to do. And of course, there's no science in that. In fact, one of our big local BLM protesters, Amari Jackson, she's a local member. She's part of the local NAACP here.
Mm-hmm.
She got COVID. She actually got COVID during one of these. Obviously, why you can't say that because we don't know exactly where she got it. I will say one thing that we're messing up on is contact tracing because that word is not even being used very much. But she, in my opinion, she most likely got the infection from the protests. Mm-hmm. And so we have an obvious connection there where this very active protester acquired COVID, acquired it most likely from the protests. And that wasn't even a story here. The only reason that I knew about it was because she posted it on her Twitter account. And, nobody made a big stink about it. She was actually meeting with chiefs of police with no mask on, that kind of a thing. It was just crazy. And it's like, well, this isn't an issue because that protest is okay. Now, if she was doing a mass protest, then they would have made a big deal about it. And then if they got sick, they would have said, I hope you die, that kind of thing, because you deserve it, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And it's like that's not science. That's not medicine. The science and the medicine is if you're in a large crowd and you're not taking any precautions, you are going to be more likely to become infected. That's it. That's pretty simple and straightforward. That's non-political. If you are going to events with large crowds and you are not taking any precautions, you are more likely to become infected. Period. And if that's a concern, and we have to close down fitness centers and we have to close down bars, then we also have to look at issues of people congregating in large groups like that, right? I mean, it's something that has to be looked at because we're closing churches, and churches are protected under the First Amendment. So then if we're not going to be allowing churches to gather, why is it that we're going to be allowing rioters to gather? That it doesn't make any sense. It's mind-boggling because it makes no scientific sense to do that. It just doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all. But again, this is all stuff that's it progressively goes up a ladder. It's all steps to make their narrative seem normal. Like somehow this is going to normalize
the new normal.
Yeah,
the new normal.
Right, and there's nothing. I grew up old school, thankfully, and I know that there is nothing normal about this whatsoever. And again, if you do enough digging, you can clearly see that, unfortunately, a lot of the things that we thought were conspiracy theory years ago have now become fact. They're not conspiracy theories anymore. It's fact, and it's playing out in front of your eyes. I understand that there's skeptics out there, and that's fine if you're skeptical. Go and do independent research on your own, and you will connect these dots. You'll find it out there. I mean, but you need to, I encourage anybody that is a free-thinking American, do research on your own. You will see this is nowhere near normal. This is what happens in authoritarian countries.
And that's exactly right. When you hear someone's opinion, that's something that you as a citizen, as a good citizen, you need to check on that. And that goes for me, that goes for you, that goes for anybody. You don't just take our opinion or what we say at face value. No, look into it. That's the first step, to create discussion, to create debate, to learn is to you hear an opinion and you research it. You don't just take a knee-jerk reaction and dismiss it one way or the other. You try to figure out, well, is this claim, does it possibly have any validity? I think what happens right now is a lot of people, they won't do that because they're like, well, that doesn't fit with my personal narrative and my own biases, so I'm just going to dismiss that because it doesn't fit into my own narrative. And when you do that, you've closed yourself off to you've closed yourself off to reality, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, you can plug your ears and you can try to, watch mainstream media and try to say everything's okay, nothing to see here. It's like that meme with the dog sitting there with his coffee cup at the table and everything's burning down around him. This is fine. Well, no, it's really not fine, because once you get rid of the little bubble around you and actually start to think outside of that and do the research, you will find that things are burning down around you.
Right.
And,
well, I mean,
and
literally things are burning down around us.
yeah, no kidding. And there's a reason why independent journalists are going out and documenting the things that are going on in the streets. They're bringing you the truth in front of your eyes. You are not going to find that on any of the mainstream network news. To a degree, you're not going to find that on your local news. This is raw news that's out there happening right now on your streets, in your backyard, and it's a matter of time before, guess what? We are going to have to face it head on, whether we like it or not, because the violence is not just contained to the big cities. These people are trying to be bolder and make marches on the suburbs. And for anybody out there, I urge you to use your Second Amendment rights, get trained, know how to defend yourself, because whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, it is coming. It's coming for all of us.
Yeah, I'm big on on prepping, and I would say, I guess I would actually call myself more of a casual prepper. It's not like I have a bunker and all that kind of stuff, but I'm into that idea of emergency preparation, and I think one of the big things they talk about in that is security. Security is an essential part of preparing for an emergency. You have to consider that, and so I do advocate for people to learn how to defend themselves. And also, I would say, do what is comfortable for you. I own firearms. I've owned firearms for a long time, but I know some people aren't comfortable with firearms. So there are alternatives to look into. You can
exactly.
Getting a taser, or you can look into self-defense classes or things like that. Just try to keep fit, all those kinds of different things to do that. But I'm a huge advocate of the Second Amendment, and I agree with you that absolutely people should look into that possibility. A lot of people, I know a lot of people right now, I think, who in the past never wanted to own a gun, they're looking into it. And if you are looking into owning a gun, get some training. There's lots of good gun clubs out there. Get some training. A lot of places offer different licensing options. A lot of states offer different licensing options, and you can just go through the course. That gives you something, so at least you have a little bit of training. But be careful about just buying a gun willy-nilly, because I will say that's a problem as well when people don't really respect firearms and decide to buy them anyway. That can be a disaster as well. But I am an advocate of the Second Amendment, absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's just a thing, right now, the biggest thing is don't accept what mainstream media tells you is the gospel truth, number one. And number two, don't develop a false sense of security because maybe you live in a suburban residential neighborhood and you think like, oh, that can't happen here because, because I hate to tell you folks, it is happening. There's we've already seen independent journalists, even just people with camera phones, documenting that protesters are violent protesters are coming into the suburbs and they're trying to start ruckus and they're trying to deliberately bait people into confrontations in order to justify their cause, and you have to be vigilant because sprinkled in among these groups is, don't forget, there's opportunists. The minute somebody breaks into what they perceive to be like an upscale or expensive home or even like a middle class home, if they think you got good shit in there, then the opportunists will jump in and they'll try to loot it too. So you have to be careful and defend your property.
Yeah, it's actually it's happened. I mean, it hasn't happened. I think it's on the residential level, but it's definitely happened to small businesses. Where they've been raided. We've had areas that are traditionally considered suburban, like the area I live in is considered, considered suburban, and we had riots here at our local mall. So that was a flash mob situation. There was no protest associated with that. That was a flash mob. A flash mob situation where they basically they wanted to loot the mall.
That's a flash riot.
Yeah, it's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Now we are getting we're getting close to time here, but I did want to talk about one other thing, which is Snowden. This is a Military Times article. It says Snowden pardon plans draws bipartisan scorn from key defense lawmakers.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, of course it does. You know why? They don't, and this goes along with what I was just talking about the arrest with Millie Weaver. Okay, so this is somebody that they want to be shut up. They don't want Snowden to be pardoned because if he is, well, guess what? He is going to talk, and he is going to do the circuit. And this is this is a thing that they don't want somebody that's an insider that's worked on this stuff. And if you refer to that Shadowgate documentary that I was talking about, Snowden knows about that stuff too, where you've got cyber ops and things of that nature, deliberately targeted at the American people in order to influence their thinking one way or another. There's cyber systems specifically built for that run on algorithms, and they use people's data. And if you don't think that the government is using your data for that reason, trust me, they are. And it's not necessarily the government; it's the people that are independently contracted with the government. But either way, they are, sympathetic to the values of the deep state, and this is why. And if Snowden gets pardoned, a whole lot of things are going to come to the forefront, including the fact that I'm sure that he'll confirm that those kind of things are going on. And man, they're quaking in their boots over that, because guess what? If that kind of stuff starts coming out, if these kind of facts, if it gets presented as fact, you're going to see a lot of names implicated, and that's going to take a whole lot of powerful people down.
One of the things I think is interesting is how the president has kind of changed his position a little bit on this, because the President Trump originally took a very hard line towards Snowden, and it's kind of interesting to see. I saw this article talks about it. There's another article that talks about it, that he basically he said that he basically did sort of an informal kind of poll, with people in the White House. And he said it's kind of 50-50. It's 50-50 within the White House about whether Snowden should be pardoned or not. And it's something that made him think about doing a pardon. And I know for a fact that Ron Paul's son, is a big advocate of pardoning Snowden, and he does have some influence with the president and is able to talk to him. So it makes me curious about who's saying what and who's on which side. It makes me wonder, who's saying yes and who's saying no, and why. I would love to know that. I would love to be the fly on the wall in a conversation like that, to hear, what people are saying. But that's just, like I said, that's just an article that I read where the president had said that his own little informal poll of folks at the White House, and I assume he's talking about, secretaries, he's talking about people that are high levels of government, high level advisors, that he said they're basically 50-50. And that's a really interesting thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because you wouldn't have heard that before, I don't think. Something. It seems like something changed. I guess that's my point. Is something has changed where a lot of people are saying, yeah, we do need to pardon this guy. My position is a little bit like it's not. I'm not one way or the other about Snowden. I'm of the position that I like what he did. I'm not sure I like how he did it.
I'm not thrilled.
That's my position on him.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled with the way that the guy went about it. But the information that he was trying to get out was absolutely important. And
absolutely. Yeah. The NSA was doing illegal things,
mm-hmm.
and that's the bottom line. And that kind of stuff. There should be some protection. I actually saw a post recently from Congressman Massey, who's one of my favorite congressmen. He was talking about the fact that the whistleblower protections for contractors, which Snowden is very murky, and they need to fix that. Because he said that's part of the problem. Is one of the reasons that Snowden is in the trouble that he's in is because he was a contractor, and therefore he doesn't have the same whistleblower protections that an official government employee has under law. And that's something that hasn't really even been talked about. Yep. Whistleblower protections in general, I think, are very important. I think it's part of your First Amendment right also. That I would argue that whistleblower protections should go in line with your First Amendment rights. And just because you're a government employee doesn't mean you lose your First Amendment. But this is a situation where he's a contractor. And mm-hmm. Massey was bringing up the point that they have even less protections than direct employees.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that when Snowden does get pardoned, because I really do think Trump is going to pardon Snowden, and part of that is political. I'm not going to lie. Part of that is strategy, but it's going to.
Do you think it'll happen before the election or after the election?
I think it'll get slipped in under the radar before the election, probably. But there's a chance it could happen after. I think personally it'll happen before. Only because it only will increase the president's popularity that much more. So
it's interesting because I'm already seeing the Twitter storm align, where you can see where people are going to go with this. And of course, you're already seeing people saying this guy's a traitor, he should be hung. And these are very quote unquote liberal people saying this. Mm-hmm. The kind of people that basically, usually say they don't even advocate for the death penalty, but we should hang Snowden. And it's really crazy to me. That's the kind of stuff you see in this, mm-hmm. this crazy polarization that starts to happen. And you can kind of see what the narrative is going to be if he is pardoned,
Well, see, that's the problem. When you build this house of cards that's based on a lot of lies and uneven ideas that the extreme left has built, eventually it's going to come crashing down. I mean, you'll have the blind morons that parrot and follow and say the same talking points and things like that, but maybe some of these people think that they're going to be rewarded when this great socialist utopia, communist hybrid communist utopia comes to be. But I hate to say that they're not going to reward the people that they consider to be peons and undercastes. They're not. It's in an authoritarian society like that, people are punished, not rewarded. They're lorded over, and so these people are in for a rude awakening, sadly. But I find it hilarious when you see posts like that because it just runs counter to the classic liberal mindset. But
Right.
but again, a lot of the classic liberals have left, now because they don't feel they have a place even in the Democratic Party.
Right. And the other part of that too is that, you had this, we've talked on this show in previous episodes, whatever happened to the peace faction, you know what I mean? The peace faction of the Democratic Party, which was so huge when George W. Bush was president. They were doing protests. They were out there. Where are they now? They've just completely disappeared.
They've been either pushed out or indoctrinated into this new garbage, and that's the sad truth of it. I mean, there was a very forced push out of people in this party, when the infiltration took over the Democratic Party. Because let's be real, it has been infiltrated by hardcore Marxists and communist thinking folks, and to a lesser degree, but still present, there are hardcore authoritarian, pro-authoritarian people on the Republican side that sympathize with this movement. And if you want to, zoom out, take it to a larger picture here, if I hate to, oh God, and we're going to go a little bit off the rails here, but if you go on the UN's own website, on the United Nations website, look up Agenda 21, which is now Agenda 2030, and just pay attention to that. Also, look up the Green New Deal, pay attention to that. These are the platforms that they want to institute, and you'll start to realize and connect the dots what's going on here. That is the end game goal. That is what they are shooting for, because what Agenda 2030 does is basically provide it provides a big time one world government socialist state where things like the police or whatever are going to be heavily automated. The police departments are going to be replaced with local citizen policing, things of that nature. A lot of you're not going to have a currency. A lot of it is going to be done electronically. I mean, it's scary stuff, but this is the push toward that. And a lot of people that sympathize with getting that kick-started are the ones that are the majority of the Democratic Party and are now, a minority, at least for now, of the Republican Party, although there may be some that are, still hiding out. But yeah, I mean, that's where it is now. But eventually, if the Republicans don't pay attention, their party's going to be lost too.
Well, I think that there's a massive amount of globalists at the top level of both parties.
Oh, absolutely, there is.
But I think that there's a division. Not all globalists think the same way. They don't all, for one thing, they don't all see this sort of global government the same way. They don't see the same end game exactly the same way, and they also disagree how to get there. That's one of the things I think people forget, is that a lot of them don't agree with the way to get there. They may want the same end result, but they don't necessarily agree on the means to get there. And that's where you have the debate. That's where you have the division. But the end goal, I think, for a lot of these top level politicians, absolutely is a globalism. It's absolutely.
Oh, sure, because they want to get rid of the nation state, and that's no bueno, folks. Because once you lose your identity and your independence, yeah, that's no bueno. And there's never going to be a utopia out there. That's a mirage, and you need to realize that that's.
Yeah, I agree with you about.
Yeah, that's
I'm sorry.
going to happen.
Sorry there, we had a little technical glitch for a second there, but yeah, we could have a huge long discussion about globalism. That could be a show within itself. We are a little bit over time though. I do want to thank people for checking us out, and if you check out the repeat, please comment, all those kinds of things. I appreciate it. I appreciate Supreme Heretic for coming on with basically no notice. It was fun. I appreciate having somebody here. And I am going to say, I hope Peter Maines feels better, my normal co-host, because he has been under the weather. So for myself, Peter Maines, the Supreme Heretic, this has been Liberty Starship, and you keep flying free.